Mike Gibbons joins us now on AM 1420 The Answer. Mike, good morning. Good to have you. How are you, sir? Happy New Year.
Good morning, Bob. I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I understand there's a big bus tour kicking off today in Parma, statewide, right?
Yes, there is. We're gonna hit every town in Ohio if we can, and that's the best way to get out. When people hear you talk, they actually can figure out whether or not they want to vote for you. And when you combine that.
Yeah, that's an important thing, and I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. I think all candidates should get out there and as much as possible and, show the human side up close and personal. It's one thing to see your face on a television commercial, and those are the faces of all of the other candidates, and, you've got to can those things. You've got to prepackage the script in 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever it is that you bought. That's different than Q&A, man-to-man, person-to-person. Tell me what you're going to do about this, what you're going to do about that. So that's got to be a big part of the next 5 months for you, right?
Well, there's one. The advertising we've done is really addressed at name recognition. Mm-hmm. Most of the people in Ohio, I know you and I probably find this hard to believe, but most of the people don't even know there's a Senate race going on. And you've got to at least bring your name to their attention, or when they do end up in the voting booth, they're not going to have any idea who you are. And that's the purpose. And this is the next stage where we actually get up close and personal, as you said.
Mike, that's such a great point, and I'm glad you recognize that from a campaign standpoint, because you're right. Unlike you and me, I do a political talk for a living. You are now in politics as a candidate. Everybody I talk to, who listens to my show and that I talk to on the radio is well aware, and they know the issues, they know the candidates, they know the entire thing inside now. But the vast majority of Ohioans don't listen, and they don't, and everybody else for that matter, not just Ohio, but they don't listen to shows like this on a regular basis, and they don't know who you are,
right.
And they might not even know who the other candidates are in a particular race. Those are the people who are going to vote, though, and they may vote on the most random of things that make their choice from you or 6 other candidates here. So that's why that name recognition factor you talk about is so huge.
That's exactly right. And I've heard this. I don't have any empirical evidence, but we've been wandering around the state now. We announced in late April, and we've been to 66 different counties and spoke to 66 different groups. And if you add all those people up that we spoke to, because many times now we were speaking to the same people over again, it doesn't even come to 5% of the voting population. So it's you're just scratching the surface. And the goal of trying to get elected requires you to go out and find those people that may not be interested in every word that comes out of your mouth, but you have to know what you're made up of, what you stand for, and what you believe in. So that's the idea here. And we're starting it in Parma. It's where I grew up. And when I lived in Parma, there were like 4 Republicans in the whole city, and that's changed completely.
And that's for the better for the people of Parma, and that's good.
Yes, it has.
Mike,
yes,
I want to get into a number of things with you issue-wise. I want to talk about COVID-19 policy. I want to talk about the border policy. I want to talk about Build Back Better and what the future holds for that now that we are in a new year and Joe Manchin killed it the first time and all of that. And those things are more important than what I'm about to ask you. But I have to ask you to comment on this because I find it so incredibly stupid. You're about to launch your and I'm sure you'll agree with how stupid this is, but it's reality. I saw online last night on Facebook something that just really ticked me off. You're starting your bus tour this morning, and your bus is a big, beautiful bus that's painted, and I'm looking at it right now with Gibbons and the State of Ohio logo and U.S. Senate, and on the back part of the bus, join us, and it's got your website and this and that and the other. It's a beautiful thing, and it happens to be painted in the colors of your alma mater, St. Ignatius, which, by the way, you have made a big part of your campaign, talking about the importance of football in your development. You're growing up and graduating from a tremendous high school like St. Ignatius, the things you learned in the classroom, married to the grit you got from football and so forth. It's a big deal for you. Well, online, some idiots are putting your bus next to a bus from the campus of the University of Michigan, because the colors happen to be the same or similar, blue and yellow, or in Michigan vernacular.
Well, they're not the same.
I know.
They're blue.
I know. Hold on, Mike. I'll let you respond to it in a second, but I want people to get this visual here. So they've got these two buses pictured one on top of the other, the Michigan bus and then the Gibbons bus, and people are online writing, Ohio GOP candidate for U.S. Senate touring the state in a TTUN, which stands for That Team Up North, colored RV. Gotta laugh at that one. I don't think Ohio State fans won't note, and don't think Ohio State fans won't notice. I'm just disgusted by the suggestion, the implication that you're touring in a University of Michigan colored bus running for the state, for the Senate seat in the state of Ohio. That's the implication they're making. I find it stupid. But Mike, as you and I just pointed out, you know, there are a lot of uninformed voters out there who may make their voting decisions based on the most random things, including such as, I ain't voting for that Michigan guy. And that's what that's what these people are trying to promote online. It makes me sick, and I'll give you a chance to respond.
Well, sure. I mean, if that is how they would characterize me, because I use my high school colors, which, frankly, I've had 3 sons that have gone there. I've got a nephew playing there now. It's an important part of my life. Frankly, I don't know where I'd be right now if I hadn't gone to St. Ignatius. It means a lot to me. I've been trying to be generous to the school, but if that's all they can come up with, I'm in pretty good shape. Because first of all, any of my competition that did that, frankly, they had to just look at whoever the competition was, and I haven't seen any of this. I try to stay away from that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm tired of hearing myself called a fascist because I believe in American values. And but whoever the candidate is, and I don't ever say anything bad about my opponents. I don't think that's the way to go about things. But they had to just reject them wholeheartedly, because if that's what they're thinking about, they're missing the whole point here. This country's at risk. This country's in peril, and we don't talk about colors of buses.
We shouldn't anyway.
If that's where they're coming from, they shouldn't be running for office.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't know that this necessarily has been prompted by any one candidate. These may be just other people.
I doubt if it has. Yeah.
But to me, and as well as I do. I mean, look. I mean, rivalry-wise, any St. Ignatius person who sees green and gold is like seeing blood. It's that's the enemy. That's the boys from Lakewood.
And green, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And anybody who wears green and gold sees that St. Ignatius blue and gold, and they despise that. And I'm concerned, Mike, no kidding, that people who do this kind of crap on social media reach people who bleed scarlet and gray and are going to say, that's a Michigan bus, I'm not voting for that guy. And it ticks me off that we have to even talk about this, but this is the kind of implication that they're making. So I agree with you when you say, if this is the best they've got, you're in good shape. And I'm not saying this is the best they've got, though. All I know is if it flips 1 or 2 people who go to bed with scarlet pajamas on and makes them say, I don't like that one because of that color, that could be a destructive thing. And I want people to stop that kind of dirty pool and that kind of dirty politics. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, in fact, I would even call it dirty. It's stupid. Right. Every candidate in Ohio should have scarlet and gray posters in campaign colors. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, that's what they're suggesting, and I agree with you. It is ridiculous. Now let's get to things that are not, and let's talk about Senate issues. Mike Gibbons,
yes.
Build Back Better is still a very dangerous thing. It is every socialist's dream. The expenditure of over $5 trillion over 10 years on Green New Deal type of promotions, of illegal alien amnesty type promotions. Like I said, everything the progressives wish for. And, in a 50-50 Senate, it only takes one. That one is Joe Manchin, who said, I'm not doing it. Now, though, that the calendar is flipped.
For Joe Manchin.
Yeah, well, for now, because the new news is that Senator Manchin is willing to sit down and negotiate over segments and portions of that Build Back Better deal and things that would have to be changed for him to be a yes vote. So if you go into that body a year from now, Mike Gibbons. Give me your thoughts and your impression on the way these things are decided, because the left is trying to eliminate the filibuster, among other things, so that they can get simple majority votes. But specifically on Build Back Better, what would Mike Gibbons do other than vote against such legislation?
Well, Bob, I start with the economics of the whole situation. I mean, this, and I think I differentiate myself from the other candidates to some degree there. I studied economics. I taught economics. I mean, we have a country that has an unsustainable level of debt and an unsustainable level of expenditures. And going to a welfare state, because that's really what this is. This is more of, it's more of the same, the progressive attitude toward let's take care of everybody from cradle to grave. And we reject that. And I think most Americans do. I mean, what we have in this country that nobody else has is freedom. And every time the government gets bigger, we have less freedom. So from an economic standpoint, we're in the midst of some pretty intense inflation. The definition of inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. There's going to be a lot more dollars out there. This is not only not timely, but frankly, this is still a center-right country that doesn't want to support people from cradle to grave, and this is just more of the same. And I think, they say Joe Manchin's a bad guy because he's not being a good Democrat. Joe Manchin's a middle-of-the-road guy that doesn't want to see this country head down the same path that all the democratic socialist governments in Europe have done. If the Democrat socialists in Europe ever were attacked, they can't support themselves in any kind of a military affair because they've spent all their money on making sure people are voting for the people that are running for office. That's what this is all about. It's about power. If you get a check in the mail, are you going to vote to ever stop that check? No, you're not. We can't let them get their foot in the door any more than it's already in. This country's built on the basis of individuals trying to achieve personal success, which takes the rest of the country into being successful as a whole. We've gotten away from that, and my campaign is based on the power of the individual to go out and change America.
Well, that
and
word
they
you
do
just
that
used,
by succeeding themselves.
That word you just used is so key, and that is achieve success, not have success handed to them by the government, which is all we have seen in the 2 years now that we've been dealing with this pandemic and the ridiculous measures in response to it, is people waiting for the government to hand things to them. Give me another check, send me another stimulus, et cetera, rather than going out and earning and achieving, which has been partially, the cause of this extraordinary inflation, highest inflation we have had in a generation. So from that standpoint, Mike, tell me about the inflation. You're a successful businessman, so you have battled, rises and dips in the economy, in inflation, and so forth, dealt with recession. The Biden administration says this is transitory. This is only a very temporary rise in inflation. Your chuckle is a good response to that. Tell me more.
Well, initially I would have agreed there was some transitory inflation. COVID caused it. There were shortages, supply chain problems. When that happens, and of course you have the Biden administration, which all but made energy companies say, why put any more capital expenditures in looking for more oil and gas, because we're not going to be supported by the government, and if anything, they want to see us bankrupt. You heard Biden's candidate for the comptroller of the currency to say that we should have all the energy companies go bankrupt. So that puts pressure on prices. And those are costs that are going up. What we're seeing right now is wage push inflation, which is the really serious inflation, and I'm seeing it all around us. I see it in our firm. We've just raised our starting salaries by a substantial amount because we can't hire people unless we do. Everybody is raising wages right now. I have a son that just started with a law firm. They called him before he even started and said, by the way, you got a big raise. That never happened to me when I was a kid. I wish it would have, but
me neither.
But it's happening all around us. You're seeing largely unskilled people be paid much more because you can't get anybody that wants to do the more menial jobs to work at all. And you're going to have to see those wages go up in order to attract them. And that's what creates the inflation that will seep into every part of our lives. And inflation is a tax, and it's a tax on the very people that the Democrat Party claims to want to help. People with assets will survive, but people without assets are going to be affected greatly, and it's a crying shame, and it's a real problem. And what they've done is their attempt to gain the reins of power has overcome what is the benefits that should go to the people that they represent, and that's the Democrat story right now.
Mike, super short on time here. Mike sure. Gibbons, I'm super short on time here, but I want to squeeze in one other question. Senator Cruz said in an interview over the weekend that the Republicans will likely impeach Joe Biden over the border policy if they win the House majority.
Yes.
Do you agree with that? And is that something that should be done? Because, again, we literally have no border now. Our sovereignty has been sacrificed at the altar of the Democrats. Go ahead. Give me your thoughts on that.
Now, this is a country where the people elect representatives to create legislation that runs the country. You know, they talk about Donald Trump and his move toward authoritarianism. We have the most authoritarian president we've ever had in history. More executive orders than any other president. That's exactly what this is. He's ignoring the law. And when you ignore the law, he took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. He's ignored the Constitution. He has breached his duties as president. He deserves to be impeached.
Mike Gibbons, only a couple of big issues we were able to get through today, but we will talk a lot. There's a long time between now and May with the primary. I appreciate you coming on, Mike Gibbons. Good luck on the bus tour from Parma and all over this great state. Hope you have a great time meeting the folks, and we'll talk to you again soon, Mike.
Thanks, Bob.